A new report from Minnesota 2020 looks into the racial disparity in arrests for marijuana possession and the costs associated with an arrest. The report, Collateral Costs, Racial Disparities and Injustice in Minnesota's Marijuana Laws, examines how an arrest for violating the state's marijuana laws impacts individuals both short and long term. According to the report, a felony marijuana conviction can cost upwards of $76,000 over a 10-year period. It also cites FBI statistics showing blacks in Minnesota are nearly 6.5 times more likely to be arrested than whites for marijuana possession.
None of these costs are race specific. They could be incurred by anyone arrested for marijuana possession. But again, since blacks are much more likely to be arrested for possession, they're much more likely to experience these costs, exacerbating existing inequities. This compels us to consider marijuana laws and their enforcement within a civil rights framework.
Sims said her research showed racial disparities in arrests across Minnesota.
For the report, in terms of determining racial disparities across the state, we only looked at counties with a population of over 30,000 and a black population of over 2% to make sure that our results were statistically significant. And every county that met those criteria, we found a racial disparity. So the black population here is not large enough for the disparity that we did see to be statistically significant. But we do worry that as the population across Minnesota becomes increasingly diverse, that these kinds of patterns are going to emerge elsewhere, and we really want to preempt that by getting the findings of this study out to the rest of the state.
Nathan Ness of Minnesota NORML, a group working to legalize marijuana in the state, believes that by legalizing marijuana, the financial hardship endured by offenders would be lifted.
The mission statement of Minnesota NORML is to repeal Minnesota's prohibition laws against cannabis so that cannabis can be used for responsible adult use, and so that folks are no longer subjected to penalties.
Ness said the first step is to legalize marijuana for medical purposes.
Minnesota NORML feels that the first people who should have access to cannabis are people with medical needs, but Minnesota NORML advocates for full legalization. And the Minnesota 2020 report supports our argument, but they also, they don't take a stand necessarily in that direction.
According to statistics from the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, there were nearly 12,000 marijuana arrests in 2013. A complete copy of the report can be found at minnesota2020.org.